There have been many feared hitmen throughout Mafia history. When it comes to the most ruthless killer who worked for the Chicago outfit, Frank Schweihs is number one on the list. He worked for several feared figures in the Mafia, but many would argue that these men wouldn't have been as feared if they didn't have Frank Schweihs on their side. In today's video, we're going to cover the enigma surrounding this notorious Mafia hitman. We'll delve into everything from the theories of him killing Marilyn Monroe to the 2022 indictment of James Weiss that dug up old secrets about Frank Schweihs and his connections. Stay tuned for the full story. Frank Schweihs was born in 1932. Not a lot is known about his early life and family. However, it's speculated that he got involved in criminal activity at a young age. By 1962, he had already been arrested 32 times, which was also his age at the time. With the Chicago outfit, he received the nickname Frank the German. This name was given to him because of his heritage and his violent tendencies. Others in the crime crew claimed that he had a talent for violence. This talent is also what led to a long-standing career within the Mafia. It's believed that Frank Schweihs has been connected to dozens of Mafia murders, from helping with the organization to placing the hits. The exact number of hits is something Frank took to the grave with him. At the time of his death, he was being investigated for murders that had been going on for several decades. When it comes to ruthlessness, Frank Schweihs had no boundaries. It didn't matter what a person's ties were to him. They could be on the receiving end of one of his hits. There's speculation that he even killed his own love interest. Frank was dating a young manicurist named Becca Pappas. Her sister made claims that she didn't trust the man Becca was spending time with. She even tried to warn her that she would get killed, but Becca was absolutely smitten with the Mafia enforcer. Her relationship didn't save her. Becca's body was discovered floating in the Chicago River after she was shot in the heart. Of course, there is no concrete evidence of who killed Becca Pappas, but her family strongly believes that Frank Schweihs was responsible. They believe that he told his girlfriend details about his role in a murder. Because of this, they think the Chicago outfit bosses wanted him to kill Becca as a way to guarantee she stayed silent. Ultimately, Frank Schweihs was never charged with the murder. Many believe this is because a detective named Richard Kane was in charge of the investigation. Allegedly, this detective was secretly on the mob payroll, so he benefited from overlooking Frank and other Chicago outfit associates as suspects. Ironically, Richard Kane was shot to death in 1973, and many speculate that Frank the German was the gunman. Frank Schweihs was involved with the Chicago outfit as a hitman and enforcer. Very little is known about his criminal activities. Although he was very ruthless and connected to some very famous Mafia hits, he did manage to stay out of the public eye. However, true crime enthusiasts have been able to dig up some information about his criminal enterprises while he was with the Chicago outfit. It's speculated that he operated several crews in Chicago. One of the crews that he operated was the Chinatown crew, also known as the 26th Street crew. Frank had a business partner who orchestrated a skimming scheme. He was able to get around $2 million from casinos in Las Vegas. They used this money to build a massive club on West 31st Street in Chicago. There are stories that link Frank Schweihs to many Mafia murders over the years. He's been connected to the deaths of mobsters, teamsters, and even celebrities, if you believe some of the theories. Let's delve into some of the most infamous murders connected to this notorious Mafia enforcer. Frank Schweihs was a suspect in the murders of Anthony and Michael Spilatro, two brothers connected to the Chicago outfit. Allegedly, the brothers were brought to a basement on June 14, 1986. They were under the impression that they were going to be inducted in the Chicago outfit. But things went horribly wrong once they entered the basement. The brothers were beaten to death and then buried in a cornfield in Indiana. Their bodies were discovered over a week later on June 22nd when a farmer noticed the fresh soil. Alan Dorfman was a Teamsters consultant. It is believed that he was introduced to members of the Chicago outfit. He had working relationships with Sam Giancana, Paul DeLucia, and others. He also owned an insurance agency, which the FBI bugged in 1979. This led to a grand jury indicting Alan and 4 others in 1981. Due to the information obtained, Alan was expected to begin his sentencing in January 1983. But members of the Chicago outfit were worried that he would cooperate with authorities to reduce his possible 55-year sentence. It's believed that this led to his murder. Just 3 days before he was expected to start his sentence, Alan was murdered outside the Lincolnwood Hyatt. The assassination was described as a gangland-style execution. One of the most mysterious murders that Frank Schweihs has ever been connected to is the death of Marilyn Monroe in 1962. There have been so many theories surrounding her death. Some people believe she had an affair with John F. Kennedy which led to her death. Some think that it was part of a communist conspiracy, and others believe it was a suicide. The truth may never be revealed, but there's another theory that could hold a lot of weight. It's believed that Marilyn Monroe had ties to the mob. There were even rumors swirling around that she dated Chicago mobster Johnny Roselli early in her career. Could she have known too much? This is possible because there are also theories pointing towards members of the Chicago outfit. In the early 1980s, Marilyn Monroe murder cover-up was published. It suggested that Sam Giancana and Jimmy Hoffa were responsible for Marilyn's murder. There have also been theories that suggest Johnny Roselli and 2 other hitmen were able to get into her apartment on the night of her death. But one of the most mysterious theories comes from Becca Pampas's family. They have reason to believe that she discovered details about Frank Schweihs' role in the famous actress's death. It's possible that Sam Giancana ordered Frank and Anthony Spilatro to take out Marilyn and make it look like a drug overdose. Johnny Roselli was a notorious figure connected to the Chicago outfit. He was a representative in LA and Las Vegas and became a dominant force in both cities. He was well known among celebrities and high rollers, but with his rise came a great fall and a mysterious death. In 1976, the mobster disappeared. His body was later discovered in a steel drum in Florida. It's speculated that Johnny Roselli had started to become an embarrassment to the outfit and was drawing too much unwanted attention. Bosses at the time ordered a group led by Frank Schweihs to take out the mobster. Another famous Mafia murder that Frank Schweihs is a suspect in is Daniel Seifert. Daniel was introduced to members of the Chicago outfit through a business venture with his partner, Irwin Weiner. For the most part, Daniel kept a low profile and stayed off the authorities' radar, but things took an unlucky turn for him. Irwin Weiner decided to sell his share. This caused members of the outfit to become greedy, and they started demanding a share of Daniel's business dealings. It is speculated that Frank Schweihs was one of the men who wanted a cut. Eventually, Daniel couldn't take the heat anymore, so he decided to sell his share and start a new company. But this wasn't enough to keep the Mafia off of his trail. They wanted more from him. However, the FBI caught wind of him when they were doing an investigation. They approached Daniel, who agreed to cooperate with them. That was enough to seal his fate. On the morning of September 27, 1974, Daniel and his family drove to his business. They were met by 2 gunmen. One gunman took his wife and kid into the bathroom so they wouldn't see anything. The other gunman took care of Daniel Seifert. It's speculated that Frank Schweihs was one of the gunmen. Operation Family Secrets kicked off in 1998 after a tip from Frank Calabrese Jr. This launched an FBI investigation into the Chicago Mafia. Frank Jr. and his uncle, Nick Calabrese, gave the FBI information about Frank Calabrese Sr. and other Chicago outfit members. This included information about crimes that ranged from loan sharking to murder. During this operation, the FBI was investigating 18 murders that took place between 1970 and 1986. Frank Schweihs was one of 14 Mafia members that were being investigated. By April 2005, the FBI had a 43-page indictment that they crafted throughout the investigation. The Chicago outfit was in hot water. Around this time, the whereabouts of Frank Schweihs were also unknown. He was declared a fugitive. However, Frank wasn't on the run for very long. By December 2005, he was caught in Kentucky. At this point in time, his health was in very poor condition. He had come down with cancer, and the road ahead was not looking good. Due to the state of his health, he wasn't to go to trial with the others who were investigated during Operation Family Secrets. The original trial was held in 2007. Frank Schweihs was waiting in prison at this time and was set to stay there until his trial. As his health showed signs of improvement, a trial had been scheduled for October 2008. Unfortunately, his health took a turn for the worse, and he passed away on July 23, 2008. Frank was one of 3 defendants who passed away before their trial. Frank Schweihs' personal life was something he kept out of the public eye. Until 2012, very little was known about his family. His daughter Nora Schweihs became one of the main castmates on a VH1 reality series called Mob Wives Chicago. This was a 1-season spin-off show of Mob Wives. On the show, Nora's battle to have her father's body exhumed was covered. She was eventually able to get it exhumed in 2012 and prove that it was Frank Schweihs' identity. Later, his body was cremated. Although Frank Schweihs kept his life private, he's still a well-known figure among true crime and mafia enthusiasts. His legacy goes down as one of the most feared figures to ever work for the Chicago outfit. Many would argue that the bosses of his time wouldn't have been as threatening as they were if they didn't have Frank the German to call on. Violent crimes are practically non-existent within the Chicago outfit. There hasn't been an enforcer within the crime organization that held the same level of hitman skills that Frank Schweihs possessed. He will always be known as one of the most talented and feared killers in Chicago organized crime. Frank Schweihs is known to the public as a mafia killer, but he's never been convicted of the crime. He's speculated to have been connected to dozens of murders, including Carlo DeVivo, Charles Nicoletti, and James Catawara, just to name a few. But according to the Operation Family Secrets investigation, he would only have been convicted legally to the deaths of Daniel Seifert and Emil Vacci. One thing that is known about Frank the German is that he instilled fear. This man was a brutal killer who didn't think twice about placing a hit on someone. He was even cold-hearted enough to kill people he claimed to love. This was more than enough to keep his enemies sleeping with one eye open. People who knew him claimed that his stare was enough to scare people. While he looked like an average man at first, he could flash a deadly look within seconds that was almost as frightening as one of his hits. In 2022, Frank Schweihs was brought to public attention again. What could this mafia enforcer who had been dead for well over a decade do to bring in all this attention again? James Weiss was a politically connected businessman. He was convicted of bribing state-elected officials, paying over $30,000 in bribes. It was also discovered that he had connections to mafia hitman Frank Schweihs when the enforcer was considered a fugitive. James Weiss's brother, Joseph Weiss, is also charged with attempted obstruction of justice. An indictment was filed against him, claiming that there were 9 incidents where he lied to the feds about his brother's connection to Frank Schweihs. This includes lying about knowing anyone who did business with Frank the German, denying conversations about the mobster, and other lies that abolished his and his brother's business with the notorious Mafia figure. Ultimately, the feds had enough proof of the connection between James Weiss and Frank Schweihs to put him away. Allegedly, there were wiretaps of a conversation where James Weiss reached out to Frank Schweihs for help. This was when Frank was on the run. While Frank couldn't directly help James, he did arrange to send a guy to help him out with his problem. His bribes didn't work out for him in the end. James Weiss is currently serving a 5.5-year prison sentence. Frank Schweihs is one of the most notorious hitmen to work for the Chicago outfit. While there is no clear date as to when he got involved with the criminal organization, he did remain loyal to them until his death in 2008. During his criminal career, Frank Schweihs was connected to dozens of murders. The exact number was never made public, and it's something he took to the grave with him. Ultimately, Frank was never convicted of any murders, so us true crime enthusiasts can only speculate as to which infamous hits he participated in. It's most widely speculated that he was responsible for the deaths of Johnny Rosselli, the Spilatro brothers, and Alan Dorfman. He's also been part of one of the leading theories around Marilyn Monroe's death. Which infamous hits do you think Frank Schweihs was responsible for? Let us know your take in the comments below. That's all for today's video. We hope you enjoyed Frank Schweihs' story. Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe to see more Mafia Mystique content.